Welcome everybody to Wednesday Night at the Lab. I'm Tom Zinnan. I work here at the UW-Madison Biotechnology Center. I also work for the Division of Extension there. And on behalf of those folks and our other co-organizers, PBS Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Alumni Association, and tonight's my pleasure to introduce to you Bruce Johnson. He's here to talk with us about his work as a solar farmer. And this is Bruce Johnson's sixth Wednesday Night at the Lab, at least, and he's going to be talking with us about his work as a solar farmer, photovoltaic, harvesting electricity from his roof, electric cars, and all kinds of other things along that line. So please join me in welcoming Bruce Johnson back to Wednesday Night at the Lab. Bruce.
Hi, everybody. Wow, this is really different. I mean, I used to be sitting in the back of the room, and now I am the room, which is just very strange. If you've seen my lectures before, you'll realize that this is an extension, a continuation of a series. If I can make my PowerPoint go forward, which I'm not sure I can. There we go. This is actually my seventh appearance at Wednesday at the Lab, 4 of which will be solar energy. If you go to WPT.org, or PBS Wisconsin, as they call themselves now, and go to University Place and search under Johnson and Solar, you'll find my earliest solar energy lectures that have a lot more detail and numbers that I'm going to go through tonight, because there's so much to talk about, and things have changed so much in the last 13 years. 13 years of this. Very strange. So, first of all, it's not really a disclaimer. I'm not making any money from this, but I have 4 points of contact as a solar person. I am a solar energy producer, a solar farmer, as Tom is so kind to call me, an electric car owner. I'm actually on my 5th electric car. We'll talk about that. I'm a customer of Madison Gas and Electric, because, you know, everybody who lives in Madison is. And I'm also a stockholder in MG&E. They've been very, very good to me over the years. If you know what the concept of a DRIP is, a dividend reinvestment program, you never see the money. It just goes in there and it gets reinvested, and it's kind of cool. So anyway, I'm a very risk-averse investor, so it works well for me. Let's move along here and by the way, I am not a lawyer, and I am not an investment advisor, so whatever I said there is just wrong. So how did I get here? This is my roof in 2015. And there are all sorts of details on there that we're going to look at right now. If you look really, really carefully at the bottom of the picture, you can see me and my daughter looking up at the drone that shot this picture. This is the orientation of my roof. North is to the top there, south is to the bottom. And as you know, the sun in the northern hemisphere is almost always to the south of you. So if you're going to try to harvest it, it's good to be looking in that direction. Now, I have to say, I do not have a great location for solar. When I started doing this 13 years ago, all the trees in my backyard, in my neighbors' backyards, I should say, were considerably smaller. And my window has gotten smaller as they've grown up, which is kind of unfortunate. But, you know, the whole idea of taking a chainsaw and chopping down your neighbor's trees doesn't fly very well. And besides, you know, I got to live here, so got to be nice about that. So my solar hole isn't great, but still, it's far better than doing nothing, because nothing does nothing better than doing nothing. Next slide. This is my very, very first set of photovoltaics. Photovoltaic, by the way, is a long scientific name for sun hits this and shoots electrons off of it as electricity. This is my first set. It was installed in 2007, 2,400 watts of sharp 145 watt panels. I thought they were the best things ever at the time, but progress is what it is. You'll learn about that real fast. Here's my next, here's the energy that comes off of any photovoltaic panel is direct current, as opposed to alternating current, which is in your house. The electrical system works on alternating current. This is an inverter. The inverter takes DC off the panels, turns it into AC that can be injected into the grid. And this was wildly oversized for my system, but it was apparently cost effective at the time. There's a story about that I'll get to later on. But this is the device that makes the electricity come off the panels, converted, and go into my electrical box. This is my old electrical box on the right there, by the way, which was also severely undersized for the job. Here are 4 panels that are for hot water. Now, I can't really tell you much about how efficient they are, because if I wanted to, the nice thing about electricity is that you can use a meter to see how much you're using. If you're smart about it, you can figure out, all the various things in your house and how much electricity they use, you get a thing called a kilowatt, KILL-A-WATT. You can borrow those from the libraries in town. You can plug it in line with your refrigerator or anything else, and you can see how much electricity it uses over time. You can't really do that with gas because, you've got your gas stove, or you've got your gas heater, you got your gas water heater. I have a gas fireplace in the basement. And you'd have to have a meter on every one of them to be able to separate out what everything costs, what everything uses, and how much it costs to run it. Now, having said that, MG&E at the time, it still does actually, allows you to look at your usage on a grid online, which is kind of cool. And this is, by the way, the inside part of the hot water system. The tank on the left there is 80 gallons. It's really nice to actually have an extra 80 gallons of storage in your house in case, like the worst happens and you need water. But what the hot water panels basically take solar energy. It's a black panel in there. There's antifreeze that pumps through the pipes that go up to the roof and through the panels. The antifreeze goes into a coil in the middle of that storage tank, and it transfers the heat from the panels to the storage tank. This is in March 2015, March 9th, the water was 140 degrees, which, when seeing as most people's houses only use 120 degree hot water, which you should only be at 120 degrees so you don't scald yourself. That's pretty cool. The picture on the bottom there is the thermostatic mixing valve, which takes the hot water out of the tank and mixes it with cold water to get it down to 120 degrees. If you turn the knob, you can adjust it up and down. The same tank in June of 2018 was at 165 degrees, and I've seen it at 185 degrees in the summertime. It's really nice to be able to take as long of a shower as you want to. I know that's not really super green, but once in a while you need a long shower. So let's go to the next thing. Oh, here's the graph that shows you how much gas people use. If you look at the green line there, that's my gas usage. It's through the summer of, what year was this? Can't remember. But you can see that through July, August, September, and October of that year, I used basically zero gas, maybe one therm, not more than that, certainly. The service cost of the gas is far more than the cost of the gas itself, which, is pretty cool. Now, can I monetize that and say this paid for itself in this much time? No, I really can't, because like I say, I can't tell what the hot water heater is using, or the stove, or the furnace, or the fireplace, which is right over there, which, by the way, uses a lot of gas. I know that because it's got a pilot light in it, and when I turn that thing on, my gas usage goes way, way up. So that's something to consider if you have a gas fireplace, by the way. What's next? Oh, so here's my second set of PVs, photovoltaics. When I first got my first electric car, which we will meet in a minute or two, in 2012, I thought it'd be nice to have enough PV on the roof of my house to be able to actually power the car on a regular basis. So I installed 7 more panels. I didn't do it. Full Spectrum Solar did the work for me. There are lots of good solar installers in this town and in this state, and they are one of them, and they've always been good by me. They installed another seven panels for another 1,750 watts. And these didn't have that big inverter that I showed a picture of. Every one of those panels has what's called a microinverter on it. So basically it does the conversion from DC to AC right on the panel and squirts it directly into the electrical system in my house. Pretty cool. There are also, by the way, little computers that send the data from your panels straight to a web server so you can watch them on your phone, because that's what we geeks like to do. We like to watch our house on our phone. So here we go. The first system here, the yellow part, cost $18,000 after rebates in 2007. Yes, that was a huge, huge bite, but we had to replace the roof anyway, and I figured we were going to do the whole roof. We might as well go crazy and move into the future. The red section, remember $18,000. The red section cost $7,000 after rebates, or $4 per watt. And I'm going to go backwards for a second here. That's $7.50 a watt for the yellow ones, the very first one. 5 years later, they were down to $4 a watt. And there weren't as many rebates at the time. So even in that 5 years, the price had plummeted. And that was a long time ago. So if we take all the rebates out of the question, $9.50 a watt for the first system and $5.71 per watt for the second system in 5 years. Astoundingly dropped a lot, dropped bigly, you could say, and it hasn't stopped. Here we go. So also in June of 2012, we bought our first electric car, 2012 Nissan Leaf. It had a 24 kilowatt hour battery. That's, it's big, but it's not Tesla big. You could maybe get 70 miles out of it if you drove nice. We drove it for 50,000 miles, 4 years and 50,000 miles. No maintenance, basically. There's obviously no oil changes. We replaced the tires once. We had them rotated. We replaced the cabin air filter. I did that myself. Over the 50,000 miles, the Leaf lost about 20% of its maximal capacity in the battery, so your range would go down over time. One of the problems with the early Nissan Leafs, with the Nissan Leaf even to this day, is that it has no heating or cooling in the pack to try to treat the batteries nice. That's a problem which is being alleviated by most other manufacturers now. We traded it in 2016 for another Nissan Leaf. And I'll tell you why we did this. Because they were basically giving them away. This was the last year of this model of the Leaf. And Nissan chucked in a $10,000 rebate to bring a $34,000 car down to $24,000. We traded in our first Leaf. They gave us $3,000, which was very nice of them. But we also got $7,500 back in a federal tax credit. So we got this car for somewhere between $14,000 and $16,000. Brand new car. Bigger battery, more efficient heating. Came with a card that allowed me to use a fast charger for free for 2 years. Now, it doesn't add up to tons and tons of money, but it's better than nothing. You're still using electricity, but you're not paying for it. Now, here's where we change a little bit. We take a left turn from my previous production, and we find out that we just traded the Nissan Leaf here on a 2020 Chevy Bolt. Yes, I own a Chevrolet. I never thought I would be able to say that again in my life. But once again, they're giving them away. The Chevy Bolt is getting a refresh at the end of this year. There's also going to be an SUV version of it coming out. This car listed at $41,000. It has more than twice the battery of the Volt. It can go for 250 miles regularly. I've already driven it to Green Bay and back and only had it charged once. GM is offering an $8,500 rebate. There's some other money in there that gets taken off. And if you're a Costco member, and we're a Costco member in August, you get an extra $3,000. I'm not kidding when I tell you that this car out the door of the Chevy dealer after all those deep discounts and trade-ins cost us less than $22,000 for a brand new electric car. If you are in any position to do this, I recommend you do this, because if you are curious about electric cars, you're never going to find an easier way to get into this game. And by the way, this thing is fast, it's light, it's nimble. It has some pretty cool technology, especially if you buy the highest trim. It has the all-around camera. It has what they call leather, but what we like to call vinyl. But for the most part, it's for what I paid for. It's an astounding deal. By the way, you might notice in the background it's an older brother, but I'm getting ahead of the story. So that's the electric car section of the thing for now. Now, as a solar farmer, 13 years ago, I think there were something along the lines of 15 or 20 of us. Not too many more than that. And there was a deal where MG&E gave the pioneers a really great rate. Every kilowatt hour that came off our roof, they gave us 25 cents per kilowatt hour for generation. Just for the record, when you buy your electricity, if you're not on a special time of use rate, you're paying 14 cents per kilowatt hour. So they were giving me more than double what it cost them to sell it back to me. That's all gone now. There are a lot more solar people out there. This is the very, very first solar array I saw in Dane County. This is at the Lucia Center down by Lake Farm Park. These actually are newer panels on these two arrays than they were there when I saw them originally, but this is definitely the very first thing I ever saw that was solar. There is a little bit more than that now. Here is a couple of houses that I just found. The one in the upper left-hand corner is my friend Ben Nelson's garage. he built that garage. He installed those panels. He had an electrician help him with the electrical stuff. He has calculated that using that array, it will pay for itself. It's 3 years old now, and it'll be paid for in less than 3 more years. And that's just simple. That's not even including interest or taxes or anything like that. The other houses around here, I don't know a lot about them, but they are in Madison. These 3 are in Madison. You don't have to look too hard to find them. Here's my buddy, belongs to a friend of mine in Middleton, or on the west side, and it's actually got a video. There's a little bit of narration. Let's see if that works. Oh, the video is not very happy, so we're not going to go there because I don't want this thing to crash again. You look around all over the place, you'll find solar panels everywhere. The upper and right 2 pictures are from my mother-in-law's apple farm called the Little Farmer up in Fond du Lac on the east side of Lake Winnebago. It's a lovely place right now if you need to go get apples or pies or stuff like that, or solar energy, so you can find it. The upper left is an electrical store over on Flom Road. The lower right is a machine shop that also has a wind turbine. And since I shot this picture, the entire roof is covered with panels now. So I don't even have an idea how much electricity it generates, but it's a lot. Okay, what else do I have here? Oh, here is the roof of Applewood Storage over near McFarland. He says this one set here generates 98% of electricity he uses in that campus of his business, which is multiple campuses. We're going to skip ahead here. More examples: Home Harbor Old Folks Home in Racine, 140 kilowatts. Monona's got 156 kilowatts there. Oregon School is 230. Organic Valley, I don't even know how you count that. I mean, I never found an actual number on that, but there's a lot of panels on their roof. There's more to come. You know that every police station and every fire station has some sort of solar energy on it now. I think that's a safe thing to say. The lower left-hand one is the 3 trackers on the cop shop by my house out here on Cottage Grove Road. The middle on the right is on the library. The lower right is the hot water panels on fire station number 1 downtown, and the upper right I think is fire station 14, which is out on the far east side. But there's more. But wait, there's more. Anybody here ever been to Ikea? Ikea in Milwaukee has 4,716 panels on their roof. I think that's pretty impressive. My buddy Ben Nelson actually worked on hauling these panels over there for the contractor, and he only worked like a week and said, I don't want to do this anymore, because these things are not lightweight. And of course, here we go. For my job, my other job, I had to go to Chattanooga, Tennessee a while back. And as I was landing in Chattanooga, I looked out the window and I saw this thing over here. You can't really identify it. Let me point it out for you. See that right there? By the way, the thing in the upper right-hand corner is a Volkswagen plant. They make cars. That is owned by the VW factory, 66 acres, 33,000 modules, 9.5 megawatts, 13,000 megawatts, which is I'm getting all my zeros and commas screwed up here. That's a lot of electricity. It's a lot of electricity. I'm sure it doesn't cover all of their usage in a car factory, but it's still a lot of juice. And finally, this is the most recent picture in the entire thing. Our friends at Full Spectrum Solar installed this on top of the new Verona High School. 650 kilowatts, 1,700 panels. That's an awful, awful, awful lot of electricity up there. It's too bad that nobody can actually go in there right now. But, our good old buddy COVID has changed a lot of things for us. But you know what? I'm sure it's making electricity right now and getting fed all over Verona. Of course, it's dark out. It's not making it right now. These are old slides about solar deployment and installation. As you can see, especially the upper right-hand one, you see the yellow line is solar PV prices. I'm sure that has taken another major drop in the last thing is 2017. The last 3 years, PVs have dropped yet again. And that's even with there being a tariff on photovoltaics from China. I will say that the newer panels on my roof are actually made in Minnesota, and my middle section was made in Milwaukee. So people are working their way around the tariffs, it seems. This is my mother-in-law who owns the apple farm, the little farmer up in Fond du Lac, with her, at the time, brand new Tesla Model 3. I say all the time that my mother-in-law just turned 80 recently, and she loves this machine like no human should love a piece of machinery. It is a little rocket ship, and if you ever get a chance to ride in a Tesla, you're going to have a really hard time getting back into a gas car. So we'll move along from this. I don't know how'd that slide in there. Oh yeah, how do you charge your cars if you have an electric car? Well, the one on the left there is my charger in my garage. It's been there for 8 years now. It has never so much as complained one little bit. I think I can think of maybe 2 times in all that time when a car refused to charge, but it was the car's fault, not the charger's fault. And by the way, just for the record, these are not chargers. These are plugs. The chargers are in the cars, but you have to have the plug to get to the charger to give you the juice. The one in the middle there, or the second one over, is one of the earlier MG&E charge points. You'll see them scattered all over town. There's a couple over at Hy-Vee near the Tesla Supercharger. The third one is a Clipper Creek charger, which is at the Holiday Inn Express in Fond du Lac. And to the right of it is a Tesla destination charger that is also at the Holiday Inn in Fond du Lac. They've got 2 of each of those things, which is very forward thinking of them. I'm very, very happy that they do that. Let's see, what's next here? By the way, those were called level 2 chargers. Then you have fast chargers, which are level 3 chargers. The one on the left is from a company called EVgo, which charges with a system called Chatamo, which is going out of favor. And they have 2, you see they both have 2 plugs there. One is Chatamo, which is going out of favor, and the other one is called CCS Combo, which, for example, the new Bolt has. Those things can charge very fast up to a certain extent. The middle one here, the charge point, MG&E has, I think, 6 of those scattered around town. There's one at the Home Depot on Verona Road. There's one at the mobile station near the Hy-Vee on the east side. The picture on the right is my wife and my niece in Utica, New York, at a Tesla Supercharger. We actually rented that Tesla and drove from Milwaukee to Boston and back several years ago. Just to see whether it made sense to do this. And back then, there were far fewer superchargers than there are now. It made sense then, and it makes even more sense now. And driving a Tesla back then was a rarity. It's not a rarity at all. You see them all the time now. As a matter of fact, Green Cab in Madison is driving all electric cars now. They have, I think, 40 Tesla Model 3s. They have a handful of Model X SUVs, and they're also getting a bunch of Chevy Bolts. When I bought my Bolt, there were like 10 more white taxi-style Bolts at the Chevy dealership in Sunbury. Oh, and here's the newest thing. Everybody might remember that Volkswagen had a little thing called Dieselgate, where they had programmed their diesel vehicles to know when they were being inspected and to run in a very efficient and clean way while they were inspected. But when they unplugged them, they just went back to being dirty and crappy and unfortunate. They got caught at it, and they had to go through what they called Dieselgate. And one of the results of Dieselgate was the fact that they had to underwrite a company called Electrify America, which is installing chargers at Walmarts across the country. This one is on the east side of Madison. There are 8 hoses there. You can see that the inset there shows you that the CCS plug there can provide up to 350 kilowatts. That is about, well, that is 7 times as much electricity as the EVgo charger that I used before. Now, here's the thing, though. No cars are set up to take 350 kilowatts yet, except for the Porsche Taycan, which I've never seen, and honestly, I don't ever expect to see one. But it will come in over time, and the more kilowatts you throw in a battery, the faster it charges, which is something everybody seems terribly concerned about. But honestly, for the most part, if you drive an electric car any specific distance, you learn to work with the pace of the car, and you have to be resigned to the idea that you have to sit down for half an hour to 45 minutes to get enough electricity. I don't personally know of anybody who doesn't stop and have a cup of coffee or a bear claw or go to the bathroom every once in a while. So honestly, it doesn't seem to bother me that much. Charging is expanding around the country, although I will say this. I got some slides on that. Let me see. Cool. Here you go. Here are the charge point chargers in the Madison area. Every one of those things, circles, shows you how many chargers there are in that particular geographic area. Now, they're not all fast chargers. A lot of them are level 2 chargers, which are 220 volts, usually about 40 amps. will charge a car at, give or take 25 to 30 miles per hour of charging. You get that much distance. It's much better to charge your car in your garage overnight. There's no two ways around it, because you know what? It takes you 5 seconds to charge your car, because you plug it in, that takes 5 seconds. You go to bed, you get up in the morning, it's charged. It took you 5 seconds. Now here are the chargers around Madison. And as you go, Madison's kind of an oasis. There's a bunch over in Milwaukee. These actually are not new slides either. These are old slides, but this is a pretty good. You get a feel for the distribution. Now, when you get a little bit bigger here, you see big gaps. The green dots are slow chargers, and the orange dots are fast chargers. For example, the one up in Mauston right there is a Tesla Supercharger at the Culvers at the Mauston exit. I'm sure we've all driven past there. It's only a Tesla charger, though. You can't charge CCS there. You never will be able to charge CCS there, because nobody wants to be able to. There was never a standard, and nobody wants to share. Now, what I can tell you is that I should have put the picture in here, and I didn't. If you go up to Toma, where the interstate splits over there, the Walmart in Toma is one of the places where Electrify America has put in a charger, put in a CCS charger. So you can in the Bolt, you can easily drive from Madison to Toma. No problem. I had to take my daughter back to college at La Crosse last week, and we thought about taking the Bolt. But here's the thing: the only place you can charge the Bolt with a fast charger is in Toma. Now you look at this map. There is a Supercharger in Mauston. There's a Supercharger in La Crosse, actually on Alaska. That makes it much easier to deal with. But the difference is that Tesla is handling its own charging, whereas all the other car makers are leaving it up to commercial entities to do this. And there's no real unified attempt to make this work well. It'll happen over time. It absolutely will happen over time. But right now, it's far easier to drive a Tesla across country than it is to drive a CCS car. And there are a number of them. I can make a long list of them. I think I cut it out of here, though, because I didn't want to be too long. What time is it anyway? I got to check and see if I can see what time it is. Tom, unmute and tell me what time it is.
It's 7:30, Bruce.
Thank you.
It's 7:30, Bruce.
Thanks, Dennis and Tom. Way to go. Okay, I got a half an hour to go through 99 slides. I'm kidding. I don't really have 99 slides, I don't think. Next slide. Here are this is the PlugShare map for the United States of about a year and a half ago. I guarantee you that the vast majority of those orange dots are Tesla Superchargers. As a matter of fact, I have a slide here that shows you some Tesla Superchargers behind it. This is also not a new map. That gray line across Canada right there, all turned on right now. The gray line across North Dakota, where there used to be 0 chargers, is all turned on right now. And they're actually their newest version 3 chargers, which are faster than most of the chargers in the country. It's becoming an absolutely doable thing. And like I say, I don't own gasoline anything anymore. I don't own anything that uses gas, and it's pretty cool way to live. Okay, so let's talk about the utilities real quickly. I realized I took a left turn into cars and then came back to the utilities, but what the heck? MG&E and Middleton put together this solar array on top of their public where they park the garbage trucks, garage over on the north side of Middleton. That was really cool. They offered people the opportunity to buy shares in them, sold out in about a split second. So they went and built another one. They built another array over by Maury Field, which also sold out rather quickly. I'm glad to say that my current employer owns enough shares to be able to claim that all of their electricity is sourced by solar. And that's great. Now, let's be fair. We all recognize the fact that electricity is fungible. Just because it comes off that solar panel in Middleton doesn't mean it runs into my house over here in the east side. But still, it's the progress of the system. And it allows coal plants to go offline, and coal plants are going offline all over the country right now. I don't think there's been a new one put online in a while, and they do close on a regular basis. But there's more. But wait, there's more. Here's another one. Madison College over by the airport has 5,000 panels on their roof, which is great. I remember I did a story there once. I did a thing for public television back in the day, and we got to go up on the roof, and it was just this huge expanse of pea gravel on the roof. And I'm thinking, geez, look at all the sun that hits this thing. They went ahead and did it. I'd like to claim it was my idea. I'm going to claim it's my idea, but nobody ever asked me that. And of course, it's not just MG&E. This is the Allison Energy headquarters over on the American Family campus on the east side. They have lots of chargers. They have lots of different types of solar arrays. They're doing kind of research on what works best. If you need to get a charge on your electric car, I understand these things are free. Actually, you do not charge for them. By the way, most of the chargers in town, the MG&E charge point chargers, if you join their study of how these get used, you get a 50% discount. You can charge for $1 an hour, or the fast chargers are $2.50 an hour. That's a pretty good deal. Oh, by the way, who here has been by the airport lately? I'm there all the time because I like looking at this thing. A year and a half ago or so, Joe Parisi, my favorite politician, announced they're going to build a solar farm out at the end of the runway. Everybody remember the old brick house or the rock house that used to be at the end of the airport? This is where this is now, and it's not finished yet. But they started putting the panels on like 2 weeks ago, and this thing stretches out for, I'd say probably half a mile. It's half a mile long. It's about half a mile deep. It's enormous. And here's the best part. It's not the last one they're going to build. They're also this is going to be, I think they said 9 megawatts. They're going to build another one down by the landfill that's 12 megawatts. And when these two are combined, the power of these two are combined, Dane County's operations will be entirely operated by renewable energy. Joe Parisi, he's the guy who built the bike bridge across the Lake Gonza. So as far as I'm concerned, he can be the county executive for life. Here's another one. Here's the big one, Badger Hollow, which I thought was actually up and running right now, but apparently they had a problem with something called COVID that slowed them down. This is going to be enormous, 300 megawatts. There has been some resistance to this it's in the driftless area. People are complaining you shouldn't put it on cropland. I personally, I'm not an expert in the ag world like Tom is, but I think we've got enough corn in this world, and the stuff can work year round and make electricity for everybody totally silently and nicely. So yeah, I think this is the biggest one that is planned in Wisconsin right now. Here's one that I didn't even know about till yesterday. The Western Mustang project in Gilman. As you can see, it's just to the northeast of Eau Claire. Actually, the little pictures on the right hand side of my screen, I can't see where the Google pin is, but this is 74 megawatt solar farm in Gilman. And it's not. There are several of these in process right now. I could make a list, but I'd be here all day. Very exciting that lots of different entities are trying to get into this game. And of course, there's something that happened more than a year ago, but I love to talk about this. It must be 2.5, 3 years ago now that in Western Australia, it's a pretty sparsely populated place, and they have huge problems with electricity stabilization. Especially one of the things that renewable energy, both power PVs and solar and wind turbines do, they're not consistent. They say they're not dispatchable, which means you can't turn them on and turn them off when you want to. And sometimes they're running when you don't want them, and sometimes they're not running when you do want them. You need stability on the grid. That's not the only reason there's instability on the grid, but that's one of the reasons. So a guy named Elon Musk, has anybody ever heard of Elon Musk? He or somebody in his organization, I'm sure it was somebody in his organization, had the audacious idea of building a huge battery and plopping it in Australia with the express use of using the output of this battery to stabilize the electrical grid in Australia, in Western Australia. Something that is normally done with what are called peaker plants that generally run on natural gas. And they're expensive, and they spin up, and they take time, and they make pollution when you run them. So he said to these people, I will build you this plant, which is going to cost $50 million. If I do not have this thing up and running within 6 months of this day, or the day you sign the contract, it's free. He had it up and running in 5 months, cost $50 million, and in the first, I think, 18 months, it saved $160 million in electrical costs. I mean, that kind of thought process just blows my mind, and it's working to this day. It's making life better for people using batteries and wind turbines and solar panels. What could be better than that? Let's see what else I put behind this thing. Oh, hey, let's go back to my roof. Do we remember the number 18,000? I sure do. $750 a watt. So last year, you might wonder why I had to replace had got different solar panels, because you see on the right-hand picture in the valley right there where it had the other colored shingles. I had a very, very, very determined drip through my roof, and it landed on the ceiling of my bathroom right down there by the electrical post. And I had the guy reshingle and redo the valley, and it just didn't help, and it just kept getting wet. So finally, I called a roofer, and I said, "Can you just fix the valley so it works right?" And he goes, "Not really. I mean, it would be half a fix if it was even that." So finally, we bit the bullet and had re-roofed the house. And because I had solar panels on the roof, obviously they had to come off. So I talked to my friends over at Full Spectrum, and he said, and they're very nice people, but they're not a charity. And they said, "Well, it's going to cost you $3,000 for us to take them all off and put them back on. And if you're going to take them off, why don't you put better ones on? Because these things are already 10 years old." And I said there were 145 watt panels. You can't find 145 watt panels anymore. They don't exist. And the thing about having the unitary inverter there is that it can't use scattered different types of panels. It needs consistent output from all the panels. You have to have the same panel, basically. And you couldn't buy any more of them, so it couldn't expand the system. So I bit the bullet. Instead of paying them $3,000 to take the system off and put it back onto a new roof, I paid them $11,000 for a whole replacement system. And here we go. 17 145 watt panels that totaled 2,400 watts were replaced with 14 300 watt panels that totaled 4,200 watts. That's a lot more electricity. A lot more electricity. So the system wattage went from 4,150, including the other 7 panels that I have, to almost 6,000 watts. Now, to be fair, you're never going to see 6,000 watts. That's best case scenario when the panels are really, really cold, getting blasted with straight on sun. I have seen them over 5,000, but that makes me happy. So let's move along here. Oh yeah, that's right. $18,000 or $750 a watt for the old panels. $11,000 for far more electricity, $2.61 a watt, and that's totally installed. And it also includes the new inverter I have in the house. Like I said, the price of this has come down. Well, that's a 66% reduction right there in 12 years. There aren't too many products other than computers that do that. Here's the after rebates, $7.50 to $1.83 a watt. And by the way, speaking of rebates, depending on what happens in the very near future, the current rebate for solar panels on your house is 26 or 27%. There's no guarantee that it's going to be continued after January 1st. If you're interested in getting into solar, call the solar installer and do it quickly. So where is the data? Okay, here's my data. This is from a year and a half ago, right after right before the new panels came on. This was a beautiful, clear sky day. I made 21 kilowatt hours of electricity, a peak generation of 3,700 watts. Here is right after the new ones got turned on. There was less sun that day. You can see how choppy it is. It made 29 kilowatt hours and peaked over 5,200 watts. That's what new panels will do for you. Here is today. Now you can see by the difference here, when you go backwards a step here, see how big and bell-shaped that curve is there? That's because the sun is high enough in the sky that all the trees mean nothing. But now when the sun is low in the sky, you see the sun didn't hit the panels fully until noon, which is kind of heartbreaking, really. But you can also see that it also peaked out at only like 3,900 watts because the sun is not as intense right now. I mean, obviously the sun's not as high in the sky. There's a lot more atmosphere it has to get run through. I tell people all the time that the summer solstice is the saddest day in the year for the solar farmer because it's all downhill from there till Christmas. But got to keep pushing. So this is what I made today. If you look at the last 12 months, you can see 2 or 3 different data points in this information. For one thing, I over that span of time, I generated 53% of the household electricity, including charging the Leaf to a certain extent. But you'll notice that in March and April, the amount of red spikes for charging, some of those red spikes are dryer use, and I am an inveterate user of clotheslines. But there's also a lot less car charging. Another thing that the COVID virus has done for us is we drive a lot less. I hope everyone has gotten their 15 or more % discount from their car insurance people because people are driving a lot less and having fewer accidents. Even State Farm gave me that, which was kind of nice. But this is one whole year's usage, and you can see the gap right down there in between January and February where we were out of town and nobody shoveled off my panels. Oh well, I am crazy. I do shovel my panels. Anyway, this is my year's worth of electricity. I made 53% of my electricity in my household, including charging the car. And by the way, that allows me not to buy gasoline, period, because I have 2 electric cars, and I have electric lawn utility, or electric lawn tools. The snowblower is remarkably useful. I've gone through 3 winters with it, and it has never been any snow that we couldn't get rid of in the driveway. The lawnmower is a piece of a technological tour de force. It even has headlights, although I've never seen anybody ever mowing their lawn in the nighttime. And here are my entire last 8 years of usage. I can't really tell you what happened in the first 5 years because I didn't have the e-gauge system right here at the time. But my inverter was counting up all of the electricity used, and I never took a picture of it before they took it off the wall. So that's my bad. So anyway, in 8 years, we've made almost 50% of the entire household usage, including electricity for cars. It's absolutely doable. You have to decide you want to do it. It's nice to have a better solar hole than I have, certainly. But do not think that this is out of anybody's possibilities because, like I say, it gets cheaper every year. But here's my last data point. Here's my other electric car. This is actually my second Tesla Model X, towing the RV that I built. My daughter and I took this up to the UP a couple months ago in August. And the nice thing about trailer parks or campgrounds is that they have 220 volt, 50 amp electricity that you can recharge your electric car with. And that's really a good thing because when we towed this thing up to our first campsite, we got there with 5% of the battery left. That was a little spooky, but you get used to that after a while. Range anxiety evaporates after a while. So, time to open up to questions. How much time do I have?
12 minutes until about 7:59.
12 minutes. Who's got a question? Raise your hand.
Or just unmute and ask Bruce a question.
Sure.
I'll start. Bruce, what impact, if any, does all the rooftop solar panels have on air conditioning demand? I think my assumption is that's going to be one thing that's really great for those buildings that have panels.
Well, I don't know how you would measure that, honestly. You'd have to basically have instrumentation inside your attic. And I got to tell you, I think that having a well-insulated attic would probably be more useful than having panels on your roof because there's always a distance involved, Yep. But having said that, here's one of the weird things about solar panels is that they're less efficient the hotter they get, which is unfortunate but true. Not so much so that it makes sense to chill them. That would be an energy loser there. But here's something else. I am both a clothesline freak and I try not to run the air conditioning as much as possible. I know that's hard to believe, but it's true.
So the other angle is, what about the libido effect, albedo effect? On,
Libido. Well, you know, nothing makes you sexier than having solar panels. No choice around that. The albedo effect in terms of what? In terms of shingles?
yeah, having less heat coming off all these the huge number of acres of roofs in the country.
There is a rule that you cannot mount panels directly to a roof. You have to have an airspace underneath them to cool them, for one thing.
Okay.
That's a good question because reflectivity is I can't decide whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, honestly. But yeah, I mean, honestly, for example, the solar thermal plants in the Southwest, where literally they condense sunlight and shoot it up to a single point to heat like salt or a very thick liquid. Birds fly through them and are barbecued as they go through. It can be a lot of energy going on there. Honestly, that's a damn good question.
Okay, I'll look it up. Other questions?
Thanks.
Can you say something about energy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you say something about energy storage, the battery technology?
Can I indeed? I don't have it. That's what I can say about it. I'm all for it. But here's the thing. Actually, I can probably turn off my slide, can't I? Can I stop my sharing? Let me see if I can figure out how to do that.
Hover at
Here's
the top.
stop share there. Gotcha. Here's the thing. Nobody, and I mean nobody, except maybe Dennis Adams, knows how much electricity they use in a day. Everybody here, can anybody guess how much electricity the average American uses in a day? I didn't think so. But I don't blame you though, because who wants to read your utility bill? I know I don't. But here's the answer. It's roughly 20 kilowatt hours. Now, the gold standard of batteries for houses right now is the Tesla Power Pack that you buy. I don't know what the price is right now. Dennis, is it like $7,000 for 11 kilowatts?
Yeah, they're like 7 or 10. They're up there, and they recommend you need 2 or 3 of them depending on the size of your house.
Absolutely. People, you couldn't run a house full tilt on a single power pack on the average day. Now, having said that, like everything else in this business, they're getting cheaper by the minute. If you saw Battery Day the other day with Tesla, they've come up with a whole new chemistry to apparently drag lithium out of clay. And batteries made in this mold are going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So, do I think it's a great idea? Yes, I do. Is it economical right now? Not particularly. Unless you really want to be off the grid in the worst way.
Yeah, exactly. And you're effectively using the grid as a battery right now.
Exactly.
And rates are still favorable for you for that, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, I'm on time of use metering. I sort of touched on that. I should go back to that thing. If you do buy an electric car, you own an electric car, and you charge at home, you absolutely have to get on what's called time of use metering. In Madison right now, for Madison Gas and Electric, I can either pay 14 cents per kilowatt hour round the clock 7 days a week, or I can pay I think it's something around 27 cents per kilowatt hour now between 10 in the morning and 9 at night. And all the rest of the hours are 8 cents per hour. 8 cents per kilowatt hour, excuse me. I charge my 100 kilowatt hour Tesla. I mean, if I ever emptied the battery, which you never do, it would cost me $8 to fill the thing from the bottom to the top, and I could drive it 300 miles. That's now compared to $29 for charging it during the day. That's a pretty easy calculation to make, and not to mention the fact that the car will take care of that for you if you tell it not to charge unless you're in time of use time. The Bolt does that too, by the way, which is really surprising. Actually, in some ways, the Bolt's charging algorithm is a little more sophisticated than the Tesla's. I won't say that very often, by the way, so you better enjoy that. Next.
I have a question along those same lines, and it has to do with net metering and what you've gotten back from MG&E for the power that you generate. So you started long enough ago when they used to actually give decent rates, and now I think they're at 4 cents a kilowatt hour, maybe 3.
3. Here's the thing. I know a lot of people who are addicted to the idea of payback, and I have to confess, it's not my number one priority. I also want to. I tell people all the time, I want to leave the place this much cleaner than I found it. If it costs me a couple extra bucks to do so, that's fine. Having said that, yes, net metering. All the utilities went to it exactly at the same time. You know that they got a tariff passed that made it possible for them. And once again, you got to remember, I have that. I also have the perspective of being a stockholder. I want MG&E to make a profit. I really do. And if you remember back a couple of years ago when they were talking about modifying the way you pay for electricity to paying like 4 cents per kilowatt hour plus $60 a month for service, it could be an awful lot worse. And that got shouted down. I mean, it's funny because MG&E as a company evaporated 100 years of excellent, reputation in one press release, which they eventually had to back away from. Now they're like, I think it's like $21 now and 14. And, honestly, I can deal with that. I think everybody gets used to it after a while. It's more frustrating to me, honestly, the gas thing, whereas I use basically no gas, but still have to pay, I think, $14 a month for gas as well. But like I said in one of my previous talks, somebody's got to pay the lineman, somebody's got to pay for the transformers, somebody's got to pay for the person who answers the phone or sends out the lineman, somebody's got to pay for Blount Street. I mean, I cannot be 100% independent. And there are a lot of people out there who will never be able to be solar. I get that. A lot of people will really pick on people who get the $7,500 tax credit on a car, saying, "Oh, you're just taking that money out of poor people's pockets." I don't buy that because the future. If you're going to try to pioneer the future, it doesn't. It getting a little bit of a bonus for that. It doesn't strike me as a terrible thing. So anyway, the net metering thing is what it is. It doesn't make payback any faster. But once again, if payback is all you're into on this thing, you better be living in a very sunny, very flat place with no trees around, because that'll make it happen. And by the way, my mother-in-law, who you saw standing next to her Tesla, lives on Lake Winnebago, and out behind her garage, she has a 9 kilowatt array that makes tons and tons and tons and tons of electricity. Over the 2.5 years that it's been online, she is beating up Wisconsin Energy to the tune of 33%. She's overproducing by 33%. And I don't know that she's ever actually seen a net metering check, which is kind of sad.
I have a question about the weight of panels. You mentioned that in regards to your friend hauling all those panels.
Well, I mean, he was hauling numbers of them.
Oh, yeah. When you replaced your roof and replaced your 17 panels with 14, how much weight did that change? Are the newer panels lighter?
No, but they're larger. I mean, it's one thing that the panels have gotten more efficient. My original panels were like 13% efficient, or that was the number they told me. These panels are bridging up towards 20% efficient, which is really good. But especially in Madison, where they inspect everything, they're not going to let you put enough on your roof that's going to collapse. Honestly, I'm much more worried about the hot water panels, which stick up like this, and they're like a sail in the middle of the winter when it's really blowing. You wonder when they're going to fly off. That's the kind of thing I would really leave that up to the inspectors. I mean, I think an individual panel probably doesn't weigh more than 30 pounds. It's just aluminum and crystalline silicon. But you could certainly make a lot of weight by putting lots and lots of them out there. But once again, I've never ever heard of a racking system failing or collapsing a roof or anything like that. If it does, it was a failure on somebody who wasn't inspecting it properly, I guess. I know that's not a very good answer, but.
Got a follow-up, Dareth? You got any other questions?
No, not at the moment, thanks.
Good, thank you. Other questions for Bruce?
Bruce, when you redid your roof recently, did you look at the Tesla solar roof, the glass tiles? Is that even available? And
Well, it's not available yet, as far as I know. I know one guy in Eau Claire that actually has installed it. I read that somewhere. No, well, here's the thing, Dennis. As much as I admire Tesla, and I gotta tell you, I really admire Tesla. The solar roof, the glass panel roof thing is something I have never heard a lot of detail about. I've never heard how many watts per square inch it makes. I don't know how you connect them together. I don't know how many wires have to go through the roof to make it go. And I'm not a roofer. I get that. But by the same token, the way they calculate, you know, I mean, I think I saw a calculation that said the thing was going to cost $60,000. But then they, of course, try to roll in the cost of avoided electricity over the next 30 years. And it's like, but the thing is, I'm the kind of dweeb that if I lived in a house that could support that and it was in a sunny enough place to make it make sense, I'd probably give it a shot. But by the same token, when people start getting into the idea of aesthetics of solar panels, I'm sorry, if it costs 20% more than just a normal conventional solar panel, it's probably not worth it, at least not to me. But no, by the same token, I'm glad that somebody is being the crash test dummy for this thing. I was already the crash test dummy for the conventional panels, so I'll stick with those for the meantime. But once again, I'd love to go visit one and like to see how much juice they make. I've never actually heard a very good explanation of how much juice they really do make per inch.
Other questions?
There's a question in the chat from Michael that says, how do you feel about combining solar and wind energy to reduce the carbon footprint?
I'm all for it if you have a situation where you can do this. I live in Madison, and not let me put up a wind turbine. And here's the other thing. I didn't know this when I started looking into this stuff, like in the year 2000 or around then. But as a matter of fact, down at the corner of Flom Road and 51, there's an electrical supply company that has, I showed the picture of their small solar array, but they also have a wind turbine on a stick there. It's a small one. It's probably, I don't know, just guessing, I'd say the diameter of the thing is maybe 20, 25 feet. It's not working right now. It hasn't been running for some time now. And small wind turbines apparently are real maintenance pigs. And this, as far as I can tell, this tower doesn't have any way to climb it. I think you have to tilt it down to work on the thing. I've read a lot about small wind turbines being very labor intensive and not getting the electricity out of them that you think you're going to. Having said that, there's a guy the guy who I showed, the machine shop on the way to Columbus, he has a wind turbine there, which is running like full tilt whenever the wind is blowing. I'd love to ask, maybe I should stop. I got to go to Columbus tomorrow morning. Maybe I should stop by and see if he's there. I'd like to know what kind of maintenance goes into that thing. Because between that wind turbine and his roof full of solar panels, I bet you he's probably over 100%. And I admire him for doing so. I just saw another chat question come up. Oh, shares in the Middleton solar thing. Ask MG&E. I think they're sold out though. I'm pretty sure they are. I mean, these things just don't hang around. I mean, and hooray! I want as many people to feel invested in solar energy as possible, and if that's the only way they can do it, that's great.
Actually, they're not sold out.
They're not?
And we would love people to buy solar from the community shares, so please do and check into it. It's so much less expensive than putting it on your roof, and if you're shaded and you don't have that big outlay of money, it's...
Or if you live in an apartment building. If you live in an apartment, it's one way to stick your toe in.
Any other questions?
I'm curious about the balance of how much, if you buy into the shared solar, how much of your bill do you get to pay with your solar shares versus buying green energy for basically, I think it's a penny extra a kilowatt.
I'm getting the impression that Sherry might be an employee of MG&E. She might have a better answer. Having said that, I know that my employer bought enough shares in the Maury Field thing to theoretically offset their entire usage.
So first of all, I work for UW Extensions.
Okay.
So I am not an MG&E employee, but I do buy solar shares. So the good thing about solar shares is that it's local energy. So it's what we call additionality, which means that by buying into it, you're causing the clean energy to be generated where we live, as opposed to this systems where we get it from all over the country and then we have to have all of the transmission lines. What's good about that is that eventually they could put in storage, they could put in a microgrid, and that would make us more resilient. So if there are big, climate events, which are likely to happen, then we'll have our energy here. So that's the advantage of it. And the other energy can just come from anywhere, and it's not building our own local economy. Also, when they build here, and they just built that 5 megawatts, it creates a lot of jobs, especially during the construction phase. So it's good for economic development, it's good for local health, it's good for resilience. And I sound like a commercial, but it's true.
One more thing about electric cars real fast. I told you that a Tesla Powerwall is like 11 kilowatt hours. Between the Bolt and my Tesla, I have 165 kilowatt hours of electricity in my garage. Now, I can't take it out at 220 volts, but I can take it out at 110, and I can run my refrigerator and a couple of LED lights for quite a long time on 165 kilowatt hours of electricity.
Keeping the beer cold. Way to go.
Well, you know, if it happens in the wintertime, beer goes outside.
Any other questions for Bruce?
So we didn't crash the system. I'm shocked.
No. And Sherry, thanks very much for chiming in on all the stuff with MG&E and clarifying that you're working with Extension. I appreciate that.
You certainly had the right questions at the right time, I got to tell you.
Oh. All right. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Bruce. This is great. I hope you can send the recording to me so we can put it on YouTube. And next week we get to hear from Chris Krakowski about horticulture, and looking forward to that. Dareth, you going to be there for that one?
You bet.
All right. Got to keep those green thumbs green. Thank you all very much. If you're going to watch the debate, hope it's a good debate, and see you next week.
Adios, amigos. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks again, Bruce. It's great.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Bruce.
Pause, stop recording.
The
There you go.
recording has stopped.
Yes.
Well, I guess I got something.
Yeah.
I
Well,
gotta go find it.
I got to see what my I'm recording my whole screen, so I got to see how that goes. And then Kendall, how do things look from your end? Oh, but Kendall,
Good.
good. All right, I'm gonna peel off. So if I end it, then I think Bruce's computer can start doing whatever it has to do to complete the recording.
Fair enough.
All right, thanks Jay.
Thanks for coming, folks.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Bruce. Talk to you later.